Day 25 Notes, Advanced Algebra 2. Today we continue our discussion with factoring standard trinomials. This time we look at trinomials where C values are less than 0 or negative. Don't forget that factoring and multiplying are reverse processes. So if you saw a problem like we had listed here in point 2, you would automatically think to multiply these two together. When we multiply these two together, we use the FOIL process. And the first product is x squared. The outside product is negative 7x. The inside product is 5x. And the last product is negative 35. Since these two terms in the middle are like terms, we would combine them together to make x squared minus 2x minus 35. This is what we would call a standard trinomial because it follows the pattern that we talked about in the last video. Ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are whole numbers or integer values, and a must be equal to 1. That's what's going to make a standard trinomial. Since we just multiplied these two binomials together to get this result of x squared minus 2x minus 35, this trinomial, the opposite or reverse of that would be to start with this trinomial and try to identify the two binomials that make up its factor pair. So your job as we move forward here is to factor this trinomial into two binomials. And the pair that works in this case would be x minus 7 and x plus 5. Notice I wrote those in reverse order from the original problem, but that's okay. It doesn't matter which order we write our binomial pairs in because multiplication is a commutative process. When we factor standard trinomials where c is less than 0, when c is negative, we still use the same technique that we used in the prior video. We always look for integers that both multiply to equal the last term of the trinomial and add to equal the coefficient of the middle term. It's still a good idea to make a t-chart to help identify those values. So in order to find values that multiply together to equal negative 35, that means we're looking for factors of negative 35. And we would like to find those that sum together to make a negative 2. Again, with this example up here, we have products that must multiply to equal the c term, this position at the end, and those two products must add or sum together this middle term, which is a negative 2. So let's start off by listing the factors of negative 35. We can start with 1 and negative 35 because that multiplies to make a negative 35, or we could have negative 1 and positive 35. We could have a positive 5 and a negative 7, or also a negative 5 and a positive 7. Those are the only factor pairs of the number negative 35. Next, we must find pairs that sum to equal negative 2. Well, the sum of 1 and negative 35 is negative 34, and the sum of negative 1 and positive 35 is positive 34. The sum of 5 and negative 7 is negative 2, and the sum of negative 5 and positive 7 is a positive 2. 3 of these 4 factor pairs do not work, whereas one pair does. We always have just one pair, one factor pair, that will multiply to equal negative 35 and add to equal negative 2. Since this is the factor pair of choice, we know that the original trinomial factors into this pair of binomials. X and x go in the first position, as all standard trinomials factored to, along with a positive 5 and a negative 7 for our solution. We can then double check our work to make sure that we found the correct factor pair by foiling. Now, I've already done this math once before. X plus 5 times x minus 7 does FOIL together to make x squared minus 2x minus 35, which is the trinomial that we started with in this problem. and we know that the factored result of x squared minus 2x minus 35 is x plus 5 and x minus 7. In the next video, we'll work through a couple examples.